You know how some families have weird rules that nobody talks about? Like don't sit in dad's chair or don't touch mom's special dishes. Well, in our house in Toledo, Ohio, the rule was simple. Don't mess with the small door in the basement. I'm Ezra, by the way. This happened about 3 years ago when I was 22. I'd been living with my grandpa Clarence since I dropped out of college. Yeah, I know. Not my proudest moment, but he never made me feel bad about it. He just said I could stay as long as I helped with the yard work and didn't eat all his ice cream. The basement door thing wasn't dramatic or anything. It was just this small wooden door under the stairs, painted the same ugly green as the rest of the basement walls. Had this old brass lock that looked like it came from the 1950s. Whenever someone new came over and asked about it, Grandpa would just shrug and say it was storage. Nothing special. But here's the weird part. In all my years living there, I never once saw him open it. Not once. And trust me, I spent a lot of time in that basement playing video games on the old TV he kept down there. The Wi-Fi sucked upstairs because of the weird way the house was built. Grandpa passed away last February. Heart attack in his sleep, which the doctor said was peaceful. I inherited the house because I was the only one who actually lived there and took care of him. My cousins all lived in different states and barely visited anyway. After the funeral, I had to go through his stuff. You know how it is. Old people keep everything. I found boxes of receipts from 1987, 3 broken watches, and about 50 coffee mugs from different diners across Ohio. He used to drive trucks before he retired. I was cleaning out his tool shed behind the house when I found this small key taped under one of the drawers. It was brass, old-looking, and something about it made me think of that basement door. I'd been curious about that room my whole life, but Grandpa was still alive then, and I respected his privacy. Now though, well, he was gone. What could it hurt? I waited until evening to check it out. Don't ask me why. Maybe I felt guilty or something. The basement always smelled like motor oil and old wood, but that night it seemed different. Heavier somehow. The key fit perfectly. The lock clicked open like it had been waiting all these years. The door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside was this tiny room, maybe 6 feet by 8 feet. Bare concrete walls, no windows, just a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. The whole place smelled faintly of metal, like when you hold coins for too long. There was nothing stored in there, nothing at all, just a folding chair, one of those cheap aluminum ones you'd take camping, sitting right in the middle of the room. And get this, there was a coffee can full of cigarette butts sitting underneath it. Now, my grandpa quit smoking when I was like 10 years old. My grandma had made him promise before she died. He always talked about how hard it was to quit, how he still craved them sometimes. But I hadn't seen him smoke in over a decade. The really weird part was the wall behind the chair. There was this metal grate like a vent, but bigger, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. It was padlocked from our side with this heavy-duty lock. Through the grate, I could see it led into some kind of shaft or tunnel. Just pitch black in there. I grabbed a flashlight from upstairs and shined it through the grate. The beam didn't go very far before the darkness just swallowed it up. But I could tell the shaft went back pretty deep. Maybe it connected to the city sewer system or something. Old houses in Toledo have weird stuff like that. Standing there in that little room, I started feeling uncomfortable. Like when you're alone in a movie theater and realize how quiet everything is. The cigarette smell was stronger near the chair, like someone had been smoking in there recently. I decided to lock it back up and forget about it. Some secrets should stay buried, right? But over the next few weeks, I kept thinking about that room. Why would Grandpa have a chair facing a locked vent? Why the cigarettes? And why was it such a big secret? Then I started noticing sounds at night, scratching noises coming from the basement. At first I thought it was mice or something. Old houses get mice all the time, but these sounds were different, more rhythmic, like someone tapping on metal. One night around 2 a.m., I was lying in bed when I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. It was driving me crazy. I grabbed the flashlight and went downstairs to check it out. The basement was dark and quiet. But when I got near that little door, I could smell cigarette smoke. Fresh smoke, not the old stale smell from before. My hands were shaking when I unlocked the door again. The chair was still there, but now there was a fresh cigarette butt on the floor. Still warm. Still fucking smoking. I backed out of there so fast I almost fell over my own feet. Locked the door and ran upstairs. Spent the rest of the night sitting in the kitchen with all the lights on, drinking coffee and trying to make sense of what I'd seen. The next morning, I called my cousin Derek in Cleveland. He's older than me and knew Grandpa longer. I asked him about the basement room, trying to sound casual. Derek got quiet for a minute. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. "Ezra, you didn't open that door, did you?" Turns out, Derek knew about the room. When he was a kid visiting during summers, he'd asked Grandpa about it once. Grandpa had gotten really serious and told him it wasn't storage. Said it was more like a watching post. Watching what? I asked. Derek didn't know, but he remembered Grandpa spending hours down there some nights, always with his cigarettes, always sitting in that chair, like he was keeping guard over something. That's when Derek told me about the old neighborhood stories. Apparently, back in the 1960s, there were reports of someone breaking into houses through basement tunnels. The police never caught anyone, but people said they could hear scratching and movement in the walls at night. The break-ins stopped around 1970. Right around the time Grandpa moved into the house. I haven't opened that door since. I put extra locks on it and try to ignore the sounds at night. But sometimes I catch myself wondering what would happen if I stopped paying attention. If I stopped listening for those scratching sounds. The cigarette smoke still shows up sometimes, usually around 2 a.m. And I found something else in Grandpa's papers. Receipts for padlocks. Lots of them. Like he had to keep replacing them. I'm thinking about moving to Phoenix where my brother lives. Fresh start, you know? But part of me worries about leaving that room unwatched. What if Grandpa was keeping something contained down there? What if I'm the only one left who knows? Some nights I sit in the kitchen and think about that folding chair. About my grandpa sitting there for hours, smoking and watching that dark tunnel. Protecting us from whatever lives in the walls beneath Toledo. I just hope I'm strong enough to keep doing what he did. About a month after talking to Derek, I found something else. I was going through more of Grandpa's stuff, this time in his bedroom closet. Way in the back, behind some old work clothes, there was a shoebox wrapped in duct tape. Inside were photos, black and white ones, kind of blurry like they were taken in a hurry. They showed the basement from different angles, but from years ago when the walls were different. In one photo, I could see that vent grate, but it didn't have a lock on it. It was just open, like a mouth. There was also a letter. Written in Grandpa's handwriting, but the paper was yellowed and old. It was addressed to whoever finds this first. My name wasn't on it, which was weird because he knew I'd probably be the one going through his stuff. The letter was short. It just said, started hearing them in 1969, scratching, moving around down there at night. Police wouldn't listen after the third call. Had to take matters into my own hands. The chair position is important. You need to see both the vent and the stairs. Don't let your guard down, even for one night. They're patient, but they're still there. At the bottom, he'd written, check the hardware store receipts in the kitchen drawer. You'll understand. So I did. Found a whole stack of receipts going back decades. All for the same things. Padlocks, metal grating, concrete mix, cigarettes. The dates were spread out, but there was a pattern. Every few years, he'd buy new locks. Every few months, more cigarettes. The most recent receipt was from just 2 weeks before he died. Another heavy-duty padlock and 2 packs of Marlboros. That night, I decided to test something. I set up my phone to record video in the basement, pointing it toward that little door, left it running from midnight to 6 a.m. In the morning, I checked the footage. Most of it was just empty basement, but around 3:17 a.m. you could hear something, faint scratching sounds, then what sounded like metal hitting metal, like something testing the strength of a lock. The sounds lasted about 10 minutes, then stopped. I've been doing this routine for 3 months now. Some nights are quiet, but others I can hear them moving around in there. Sometimes it sounds like more than one of them. Last week, I bought my own pack of cigarettes. Never smoked before in my life, but I figured if Grandpa did it, there must be a reason. Maybe the smell keeps them calm or something. Maybe it's just what you do when you're sitting alone in the dark, listening to things that shouldn't exist. I'm getting better at staying awake. Found that drinking energy drinks helps, though they make my hands shake when I hold the flashlight. Derek calls sometimes to check on me. I don't tell him about the new sounds I'm hearing or about the scratches I found on the inside of the vent grate. The hardest part is pretending everything's normal during the day. I work at the auto parts store downtown, and my coworkers keep asking why I look so tired all the time. Can't exactly tell them I spend my nights guarding a basement tunnel from whatever lives underneath Toledo. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I just left, packed up and moved to Phoenix like I planned. But then I think about the families in the neighborhood, kids playing in their backyards, people sleeping peacefully in their beds. They don't know what's down there, waiting. My grandpa protected this whole block for over 50 years. Now it's my turn. I still think about moving sometimes, but I've started buying my own receipts for locks and cigarettes, building my own little paper trail for whoever comes after me, because someone always has to be watching.